Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. We're on the match day bulletin. It's a Champions League, Celtic versus Midtjylland. It's still 1-1. We're at half-time, Laura, of the second leg. Could you sum up the first 45 minutes? How did you feel that went? Obviously, scoreless at the moment.
Yeah, first 10 minutes I was actually quite encouraged. I kind of thought we were looking to keep possession of the ball. Even when it went back to the back four or back to Welsh and Murray, they were in Midtjylland's half, and we were really pushing up, trying to put pressure on them and boxing them in. After that, it's been a bit dire from both sides, to be honest, I think. But the pleasant part of the whole thing, Stephen Welsh's rash challenge and booking aside, I think the defence have been doing all right. I don't think they've been fantastic, but I don't think they've put a foot wrong, really. I think Ralston, while not being outstanding, has done everything he's needed to do. Mm-hmm. The thing that's concerned me more than anything is Eduard, who looks as if he can't find a way out of Sviatchenko's back pocket, and the midfield, who are, apart from Abada, sticking to the right hand side like he's been told to pin himself there and not move. The others in the midfield look as if they're running into each other and don't really know what their role is. Sorrow in particular looks very undisciplined and kind of like he doesn't know where he's at. So not necessarily the concerns I thought I would have coming into the end of the first half, but certainly still not pleased with what I'm seeing.
Some of these concerns, Brian, are being shared in the comments section. We'll go straight to Caplo Mark, who is a regular contributor to the ACSOM Bulletin on match day. Just don't see the game plan. I think that's part of the frustration that Laura feels about that midfield. My biggest concern about Sorrow would be the amount of fouls, again, he has given away in that first half. I counted 4. It's only a matter of time before he's in the book. A wee bit like Welsh, and we don't really have anything on that bench, if we need to take Welsh off because we think that it's going to be risky. I don't want Sorrow to continue in that vein as well. Is he capable of changing that? It's niggling foul after niggling foul. Eventually he'll be in the ref's book as well, Brian.
Aye, Sorrow's been off the pace tonight. He's not been very good, and it's funny. It's kind of bizarre world, because I was quite confident midfield and front areas into the game, but concerned about the defence. Whereas actually, I think Welsh and the real great Dane of the outfit, Dane Murray, has been looked pretty solid. Actually, and this isn't something I've ever said before, and I might never say again, but I think Ralston's been Celtic's best player that first half. Now that's a very low bar. But actually, I think he's put crosses in. He's been aggressive. He's not put a foot wrong defensively. He's passed fairly well. Taylor, I think's been pretty poor in possession, and some of his passing, but defensively, good enough. And it's funny about Sviatchenko. Remember, everyone slaughtered me for saying he was a good centre half, and we could do him. We either took him tonight because he's been smart. He's had Edward in his pocket. He's played the real captain's role. And I'm just in a bit of fun there, but in all seriousness, I can't really disagree with anything Laura said. I think midway to front, they've looked actually really disappointing tonight. Abada's been kind of anonymous. Christie's been anonymous. McGregor's not really done anything. Turnbull's been the best of the sort of front, midfield to front, and even then, he's not been his usual self. So, I think maybe getting him in at half time, having a wee chat with him, they'll come out and do better in the second half. But the pleasing thing is, Welsh, Murray, Ralston have looked actually pretty comfortable.
This is the thing leading into the first game and also tonight. All our concerns have been about the defence. Tonight has been a little bit different. But, in many, many ways, though, Laura, I'm going to try and squeeze some kind of positive out of that because, as wafer thin as we are at the back, we do have options. We do have options up front. We do have offensive options. Before I move into them, I'm going to have to agree with this comment coming in from YouTube, sweating at some of Bain's passes. Yeah, straight off the bat, you could see that he's playing that sweeper-keeper role. But, didn't he do a shimmy? Didn't he do a shimmy in your own box? Please, Scott Bain or any goalkeeper. And I've seen that he reverted a couple of times just by clearing the ball. It's a lost art in modern football. Got to give massive, massive praise, I think, to good player in words by Brian, the great Dane Murray. For a boy so young, he's done everything right in that first half. Nothing spectacular, Laura, but he's done everything right. And again, I said something similar last season, and I'm still trying to live it down, Brian. I said that Ralston was our finest player against Livy last season. But, Ralston, I've written down everything he's done right, and there's plenty that he's done right. Again, nothing spectacular. Although there was an excellent pass cross where he's hit the byline and got the ball in. My biggest concern is, Edward, there's been a couple of occasions where you throw yourself at the ball. There was a crossing from Abada. Just throw yourself at it. He actually jumped up after the ball was over his head. Sviatchenko is bossing Edouard. And as Brian says, we didn't think Sviatchenko was a world beater. I used to criticise him for his lack of mobility and pace. He's got Edouard in his back pocket, Laura. Do you make changes at half-time? That's a big question.
I think as far as, just to go back to Dane Murray, before we look at the forward line, I look at Dane Murray and I look at Stephen Welsh and I think, yes, they're inexperienced. Yes, there's going to be times where they do things that you're a bit kind of, I don't know if I would have done that. But I think people are willing to give them time because they're young, they're inexperienced, and they've come through our academy. I think you stick with them, you could have a really good partnership there. I think Helde, if he's not injured, would come into that bracket as well. I think the three of them look far more accomplished than Beaton does at the back, look far more accomplished than Ayer did at certain parts of last season, and certainly far more accomplished than a lot of other options we could have. But looking at Edouard again, he would be a change that I would make. I would probably look at possibly bringing a Yeti on just to give Sviatchenko something different to deal with, because if we've learned anything from the first half, it's that having Edouard on is not going to cause Sviatchenko any problem in the second half. So if he's got something else to deal with, then maybe that'll have some effect. The other thing I would do is I would potentially maybe swap Christie and Abada over, put Abada on the left-hand side and bring James Forrest on, because I think he could have that injection of pace, that injection of danger. Unfortunately, the way things have gone so far, I think it's more than likely that Abada will come off rather than Christie. I don't know what it is Christie's got over managers that he never seems to get pulled off, but that would be my two preferred changes to start the second half and see if it makes any difference. I
think one of Midtjylland's best players has been Sviatchenko, as we've said. Edouard doesn't seem as though he's going to be injecting anything into this game, Brian. I look at the pace of someone like Abada. He was likened in his first 20-odd minutes in a Celtic jersey to a Scott Sinclair in his pomp. He does have the pace. I don't think Ayeti's got blistering pace. Do you not just maybe swap Abada with Edouard, bring Edouard off, bring Forrest on, and get him to run at Sviatchenko? I don't think that Ange Postecoglou is going to change his shape, certainly. But I would like someone to really test Sviatchenko, because he doesn't have that pace, does he?
No, he doesn't. I think that I wouldn't take him off at half time. I would give him 5 to 10 minutes, because I think if Abada and Christie do a bit more, that gives the Midtjylland defence something else to think about, because at the moment they only need to think about Eddie. So I think I would give them a bit of time first, see if they too can step up. But probably the change I would make first would be Forrest coming on for Christie. I agree with Laura. I think that would be a good move. Inject a bit of pace. Going back to the commenter who said about Bain's passing. So it's almost like, to play in Angie's team, you need a keeper who's comfortable with the ball at his feet, isn't it? That's the reality. Whether we like it or no, it's not the way I would play football. I'd want my keeper to clear it. But the reality is, that's the proof's in the pudding there. The other interesting thing with that is, if you take off Edward and say played Abada through the middle, and Bain starts long ball on it, is he going to hold it up? Well, no. So I think, you almost have to pick a lane here. I think if it was me, I would keep Edward on for the first 10 minutes, see if Abada and Christie can drag defenders out of position and give him a bit of space. I think Ayeti and Forrest would be my preferred subs to come on. I think, but, and again, the big but is, it might have to be Shaw coming on for Sorrell, because the wee man does look like he's getting awful flustered, and he's not doing what he has done in the first leg, particularly where he took the ball and drove with it. He's sort of passing it back to the centre half and then get himself in a funnel. So he might actually be the first change we make.
Potentially. We hear it time and time again about opinions being the basis of any good and healthy debate, Laura. This gives you an idea of the range of opinions we have just on one player in that first half. So Dom comes in. Ralston, decent. He's been hiding and shucking away from putting a challenge in. Magnet comes in, credit where it's due. Ralston has been the best player in the pack. So that's the two ends of the scale that we compete with on the ACSOM Bulletin. And by the way, sometimes that's the two ends of the scale within the three contributors on the Daily Bulletin as well. So everybody's entitled to their opinion, that's for sure. I don't think that Soro has got to grips with that first half. I know that it wasn't something that Neil Lennon was fond of, making changes at half time. And I get what Brian says, give it 5 or 10. Let's not forget, though, that we're playing away from home. We've not really given them much in the way of opportunities. I think that Murray and Welsh, although he was rash in his challenge, a bit naive in his challenge, again, has got to be said, because he did that a few times in the first leg. We seem to be managing the threat of Midtjylland so far. And I think that the longer this game goes on, the better poised we'll be, because I do think we've got a strong bench, Laura, and there's lots of possibilities. One thing, talking about the range of opinions, I'm going to disagree a wee bit on Ryan Christie. I don't think he's had as bad a first half. Now, I think he might have faded in the last 15, 20 minutes, but I do have quite a few notes here of him creating quite a few chances, retaining possession, so there you go. There's the two ends of the scale when it comes to Ryan Christie. But the key is as well, though, Laura, I'm not saying he's playing out of position, but he certainly swapped sides for the arrival of Abada. And I think Abada's been pretty quiet, although I think it would be a bad move, certainly, to take him off, because he's only 19. We sometimes forget that about him.
It would be a bad move, is what you mean.
I like it, yes.
Yes. No, Listen, I just think, I think personally, I can see what Brian means about Edward giving him 10 minutes in the second half, but I've lived far too long, like you say, with Neil Lennon not making changes when you feel like they were required, that I'm almost swinging too much the other way, that I kind of think, if it's not working, change it as soon as possible. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. As far as like coping with Midtjylland, it's the same as it was in leg one, and certainly from the way they seem to be, they're most dangerous from set pieces. So if we can stop them getting corners, if we can not give too many silly fouls away, like from the sort of 35, 40 yard mark in, then I think we'll do a lot to prevent them scoring. I saw like their interesting tactic that they did in the first leg and we're doing again in the second leg, with the crowding the goalkeeper at the set pieces and almost getting a bit of joy out of that. So we have to try and stop ourselves being put in that position as much as we can, and I think if we do that, they're struggling for chances otherwise.
There's a few comments coming in just as the team's taking the pitch for the second half, talking about Held playing for the B team tonight. Why is he playing for the B team? Well, it's a good question, Dominic. And someone later on in the discussion is suggesting, Owen McGrandles is suggesting that if he's been sold, must be insisting on forcing the move. That would explain a B team selection. Going back to the old school, go and play with the kids. Yeah, he's only 17 after all. Let's rejoin the action for the second half. We'll be back at full time, as always, for the full-time reaction. And by the way, that might be after extra time. This goes into extra time and then penalties played to a close. Could be a late night for the ACSOM team. Hopefully Laura and Brian will see it through. So thanks everybody for getting involved in the comment section, and we'll see you at full time.